everybody, and welcome back to my channel. Yes, I know. What do I do? Do I live in a pigsty? Apparently, you'd think that I would take better care of cleaning my room, organizing my room, because this is where I sleep, this is where I meditate, this is where I pray, this is where I film, this is where I edit. So you'd think that when I edit the videos and film these videos, I would like to have a nice, clean room. But you know what's even more of a mess than my room? And that is this country. And we can thank the judicial system for this, especially the Supreme Court, judges like Aileen Cannon down in Florida. And I cannot refer to them as justices. I just can't. I would get literally sick if I referred to them as justices. When I took an introduction to political science course, what is very shocking is that we learned that there are three branches of government, of course, executive, legislative, and judicial. But the judicial branch is specifically to interpret constitutional law, interpret statutory law, and administer law. That is their duty. And what is so hard for me to really illustrate with this immunity claim that all presidents, past and present, are completely immune, they can do whatever they want, is very scary to me. And if you watch till the end of the video, I will put down what really concerns me and the big can of worms that the Supreme Court just released. Now, this is a very important video, and I wish I could have done it sooner, but I work 4 days a week, so I have to really run the balance of when I can film, when I can edit. So if you could do me a favor and just simply subscribe, leave your comments whether you agree or disagree, click like, and also hit that bell notification for future videos. That would help me so much. And best of all, unlike all these political emails that we get now, to where we need your donation, we need $5, we need however money you can get for our donation, it's completely free. And it takes less time than it would take to give those political people your money. What it seems to happen is that they nitpick on how they want to interpret it. They may interpret it as far as the law. They may interpret it according to their opinion. They may interpret it according to do someone a favor. And some of this very simple of this is look at some of the cases that have been decided in the recent years. We had Roe versus Wade. Now, I'm not for abortion. I think it's wrong, but I think it still should be a woman's right to choose the health for their body or whatever they're trying to do. And if you look at a lot of people that have had abortions, they will come out right there and they will say that I regret that decision so much. They overturned Roe v. Wade because it takes it out of the federal hands and gives it back to the states. Remember, the 10th Amendment gives the states the sovereignty, the authority to govern themselves, write their own laws, write their own constitution, as long as it doesn't impede on the federal Constitution of the United States. That is the only stipulation. But now, the 14th Amendment, Section 3, states that if a public officer, someone holds public office, engages in insurrection, and gives aid and comfort to an insurrection, they cannot run for public office again. It says that black and white in the Constitution. The trial courts in Colorado said that he engaged in insurrection. The appeals court upheld that and said that he should not be on the ballot in Colorado. The Supreme Court issued the same opinion. And then, because that all states have the right to run their own elections? The Supreme Court says no. Let me get this straight. The Supreme Court, when it's something that the Republicans are in favor of, they say that, oh, the Constitution matters. You know, all states have their due diligence. And then, in the very next breath, they say that, no, there's no statutory law to go by, or there's no president to go by. So, now, in this immunity claim, what was the claim? They asked the lawyer that says that if a president would order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political enemy, could he be prosecuted? And the result was a non-responsive answer by saying that, well, he would have to be first impeached in the House, convicted in the Senate, and then he could be prosecuted. That's the straight text of the Constitution from watching all these legal shows. But the state does not say anywhere that if a president is not impeached in the House or impeached in the House and not convicted by the Senate, then they cannot be prosecuted. So it's like, well, it's not in the text. Well, guess what? I don't recall ever seeing the immunity argument in the Constitution either. One of the best judicial movies that I ever seen was a movie about May 17th, 1954. It's called Simple Justice. I believe it came out in the 90s. But it's a very nice movie about how how this desegregation was made possible, and that the Supreme Court on May 17, 1954, almost over 70 years ago, said specifically that separate is not equal. You can't be separate and still be equal. So what does this immunity claim say to me? Another course I took was a introduction to philosophy course, and we touched briefly on John Rawls. He's an American philosopher. He lived from 1921 to 2002, and he wrote a book on the theory of justice. The first principle, basic liberties, holds priority over the second principle. The first part of the second principle, the fair and equality of opportunity, holds priority over the second part of difference principle. John Rawls believed that both the first and the second principles together are necessary for a just society. What is a just society? Are we living in a just society? John Rawls made an example of this, in which he said that, picture, if you will, that you are on a distinguished council, that you're supposed to make all the rules, all the laws, all the rights, everything to consider in a future society, kind of like our founding fathers. But once all the laws have been signed, once everybody gives their approval, everybody drops dead. But then they immediately come to life in the society that they just dictated for. The problem is they don't know what part that they will play in this new society. We also have another founding document that I'm sure is in the Trump Bible. I have not purchased it. I don't plan on purchasing it. But the Declaration of Independence. And this is a very interesting document, because I just can't understand that. I've watched a lot of legal analysts. I've watched the legal breakdown with Brian Tyler Cohen and Glenn Kirshner. I've watched Justice Matters with Glenn Kirshner. And it doesn't seem, they're all talking laws, which is the basis of their channel. But no one is bringing up the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. So, what does this have to do with this immunity claim by for all former presidents of this core power that the puppets of the Supreme Court have just issued all future presidents? Well, let's look at what does unalienable mean? Where did it come from? The unalienable rights are those which can never be taken away either voluntarily or involuntarily. These ideas were first came to be in the Enlightenment period, which was a movement from the 16th through the 18th century, focusing on challenging tradition and universal truths. I studied a little bit on the Enlightenment period when I took my introduction to philosophy course, but what does it show? It shows that the people that wrote the Declaration of Independence, and it was ratified by Congress in 1776, which is still in the 18th century, the concepts and unalienable rights came to light because the people that wrote the Declaration of Independence have clearly accepted these truths that are in the Declaration of Independence. Well, this ruling, this opinion from the Supreme Court, this is what I'm getting out of it. You can feel free to put your comments in the comment section and go in your opinion. But this is what I get out of it. All men are not equal. All men are not to be treated equal. All men are to be treated in accordance with the positions that they hold. President is immune. So in order for us to have these unalienable rights, we have got to be the President of the United States. That's what I take out of this opinion that was just rendered right before their term ended. And it's just kind of shocking to me how it was rendered not only right before their term ended, but the week that we as Americans would celebrate Independence Day. The day of when Congress ratified this beautiful document. What about the other inalienable law? That's equal. That we expect the judicial system to put forth equal judgments, not based on who or circumstance or text, or to interpret it how they want. We express and demand that it be applied equally to everybody. As Glenn Kirshner so eloquently says each time when he doesn't say it each time, but when he gives his analysis, he exclaims that that's all we want. We want justice to be equally administered, equally judged, and given equal opinion, no matter who or what case is in front of the Supreme Court. Because if Biden would have expressed this immunity claim, there is not a chance that the Supreme Court would have even took up that case. Being that I always hear Republicans say that, well, we're more for Christian values and we care about Christian rights and we care about all this stuff, Christianity. Well, the Bible also, of course, maybe I'm sure that the Supreme Court justices have bought Trump's Bible, but you can let me know if this is in there. But one verse that really puzzles me, that when the Bible says that when you pass judgment, when you judge or offer an opinion, don't consider who a person is. And let's put this into context into this century with this Supreme Court. When you pass judgment, when you judge a case, do not consider who a person is, whether they're rich or poor, beautiful or ugly, oh boy, I'm screwed. Democrat or Republican, influential or not influential, significant or insignificant, were in the military or was not in the military, is disabled or not disabled. What is the second unalienable right? Life. Every human being, wherever they are, has a right to life. All you parents, I'm sure you have excelled in your teen, into your young adult, into your person that, in your youngster that's going off to college or something, how much it is important for them to make a living. But how many people have concerned themselves with the person that they love, that they make a life? What is the difference? Making a living refers specifically to how one earns money. It may be the minimum money needed to support a basic life, or the much larger amounts needed to support a wealth, or indeed a good lifestyle, a pleasant lifestyle. In any case, make a living is specifically about the method of obtaining income. He makes a good living as a corporate lawyer. She makes a living barely as a stocker at Walmart. He was making a living as a journalist with his fictional only as a sideline. I was making a living, but I wasn't getting rich. However, when we talk about making a life, it refers to a personal overall life experience or lifestyle, not just the fictional side. It is often used with for and frequently with the indication of place or circumstance. She now makes a life for herself and her family in rural Ohio. After my initial failing and missteps, I am ready to make a life or make a life for myself. He says that he has made a good life for himself. She no longer makes a good living, but rather a good life. What is the consensus here? That when we learn how to make a living, support ourselves, get a good job, we're learning on how we can get. Scammers, con artists, just having a successful vocation or a successful job or being CEO of a company. Yeah, you're making a great living, but are you making a good life? What is important about a life is that we learn to give. We don't get, we give. We're less narcissistic and more giving. That's a kind of an interesting word. Have you ever wondered why there's so many entitled entitled people out there that feel that the world owes them everything? Have you ever wondered why there's so many sovereign citizens out there? Because they're concerned more about themselves than other people. The other inalienable right that the Declaration gives is liberty. What the heck is liberty? The state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. What just happened down in Louisiana? The governor issued a requirement, which I would say would be a restriction of people's freedom in Louisiana, saying that they must post the Ten Commandments in each classroom. So if an atheist or if someone doesn't buy that version of the Ten Commandments and they get offended, The people that proposed this interesting legislation said simply don't look at it. We're not forcing you to look at it. Just don't look at it. Okay. So when an atheist is elected and gives a requirement that all the Ten Commandments are to be taken down from that wall, and that they're to replace it with there is no such thing as God. The Bible is a fictional story. The Bible is not real. All Christians and Catholics, don't be offended by that. Just don't look at it. Apparently that's what the people in Louisiana say. The last inalienable right in the Declaration of Independence is pursuit of happiness. What the heck is pursuit of happiness? How can we properly define that? Well, doing some research online, I found probably the best type of instruction to pursue happiness. The right to pursue any legal activity as long as it does not infringe on the rights of others. Now, what does the Declaration of Independence have to say about the can of worms or the big can of chaos that they just opened up and how corrupt the system is? They just gave that as long as it's within the realm of their official duties and official acts as the president of the United States falls under the executive branch of government in the Constitution. But how long before all these other parts of the executive branch say that, wait a minute, only that part of the executive branch can be immune from prosecution? What about the governors? What about the detectives? What about the prosecutors? What about the police department? If they do their act and maybe get a little bit too rough, they can't be prosecuted. They can't be accounted for. Look at George Floyd. That was a legal and perfectly arrest by the cop that took it too far because they had a right to pull him over because of the fact that he was passing around fraudulent bills. He was also on drugs, and they put his knee on his neck a little too long, and he suffocated and died. Do I believe that that cop got what he deserved? Absolutely yes. Do I believe that the family got the compensation that they deserve for wrongful death? Absolutely yes. But now with this ruling, what is it to say that that lawyer is not going to... Wait a minute. Let's go to the Supreme Court. Let's try to appeal this to the Supreme Court. And say, because he's in a federal prison, why not go to the Supreme Court and say, wait a minute, this is what he was doing, so he should be immune. So how can you allow part of the executive branch to be immune and part not? How long before we see that to start to happen? And I know a lot of people are frustrated about what the system does not work. And let me be very clear. The system that we have in place for this government, for our judicial, for our legislative, for our executive, absolutely works. The problem is on why doesn't it work? Because of the people that are in there. Remember the last part that I read of the Declaration of Independence, that last little snippet regarding our inalienable rights? That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, from us. So what we have to do is not give our consent. How do we not give our consent? By voting for someone else that will defend our rights, that will protect these inalienable rights. Think about what choice we have this November. Now, in another year, we're going to be celebrating another Independence Day. Are we going to be celebrating it as a free democracy or an enslaved dictatorship? It's going to be one of those two, based on how we vote. Is everybody in this country going to be on equal ground over a dictator? No. Is everybody going to have an equal opportunity for life and to make a good life under a dictator? No. Is everybody going to have restrictions, to be restricted from our liberty? Most definitely. Who is allowed to pursue happiness in a dictator? The dictator is above all. He's the only one that he cares only about his own life, his own protections, and his own rights, and what he can do and say. And he's the only one that cares about his own liberty, and he's the only one that cares about his happiness, no matter how miserable the people are. Because we will not have our own free opinion. We will not have the right to worship God in our own way under a dictatorship. It's whatever the president says that, a dictator could say right off the bat, all Baptists, if you're caught practicing baptism, you could be put to death. If you're Christian or Catholic, you can be put to death. It's whatever they say. Freedom of speech, will we have freedom to express our displeasure or pleasure for the government? No, not under a dictatorship. That's something that you might want to keep in mind when you go to the polls in November. And make sure you're registered, make sure you vote, and get the people that are out for their own personal interest, and get people in that are able, that want to listen and work together, Democrats and Republicans alike. If you really want to support me and the work that I'm trying to do and help grow my channel, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and leave your opinions in the comment section below, because I am interested in what you think, whether you agree or disagree with me. And unlike a dictator, I'm not going to force or coerce you or promise you anything except my own experience to click that subscribe button. Unlike a dictatorship, I am not going to coerce you or restrict you in any way of leaving an opinion or comment in the comment section below. And unlike a dictatorship, I cannot force you or coerce you in any way to click that like button. And even if I could, I would not, because I respect your freedom and I respect the Declaration of Independence. And see you next time.